Thanks everybody for coming along to listen to this. So waste, it's gone from being a subject that was passionate, that a few people were very passionate about, I'm presuming that means everybody in the room here today, to something over the last few years which is now part of the mainstream conversation. And I think we all agree that barely a day would go by now without hearing something about the waste problem or the ocean plastic pollution problem in the media and through social media. And today I'm going to share with you the story of the Plastic Free July Challenge and how this fits into this war on waste. And I really believe that it's something that everybody can be involved in, whether that's through your own life or through your within your community and also through your work. I just wanted to start off by asking, could you raise your hand if you've done Plastic Free July before? Great. I always get excited when I see people who've done the challenge. So Plastic Free July, for those of you who haven't heard of it before, is a behaviour change campaign, and it started back in Perth in 2011, and I was working in waste education for a regional council there. And it started from my awakening moment was visiting a MRF. So it's visiting a recycling facility and just seeing the sheer volume of the recycling waste that we produce as a householder and learning about the complex process to deal with that. And as somebody working as a waste educator in waste management, we always hear about reduce, reuse, recycle, and then we tend to focus on the very important but bottom of that waste hierarchy, that recycle message. And so the Plastic Free July Challenge was something I originally just set myself as a personal goal, and back in 2011 40 of my colleagues in Perth's western suburbs joined in, and we soon discovered it wasn't as easy as I thought, and it was indeed a challenge. And it has since grown significantly since then. And how it's grown is through people taking it on in their own lives and we're not about avoiding all plastic, it's really focused on the single-use disposable plastics, and they're often the plastics that are the problems when they end up in our environment as litter, and particularly there's a lot of press now around the problems in the ocean environment, and they're also often the same types of plastics, the soft plastics in the bags, that end up being challenges in our waste management systems. And I love this photo. So this is actually a photo of the Mayor of Fremantle Council, where I live in Western Australia. And this to me, it kind of encapsulates how the challenge grew. It's people who are taking it on personally. They're choosing to reduce the amount of single-use plastics in their own lives, using reusable cups, and then they share that within their workplaces. The council's got on board. This was a local cafe that had one of our posters up that was encouraging people to bring single-use plastic. So it is really, they've heard a lot of talk today about the importance of communities and the importance of stories and the importance of sharing these very real concerns that we have with each other, and that's certainly how the challenge has grown. Fast forward the clock for 9 years. We've had 9 years of running this campaign, of experience, of hearing from people about what they need to do to reduce waste in their communities, developing our resources and testing it. And now we're an independent, not-for-profit organisation. So what we're doing now and what's coming next is quite a new approach, building on the principles that we've been working on for the last 9 years, and behaviour change is a real core part of that. And we've actually been working with a behavioural economist the last couple of years, and I'm really pleased to say we've just got some significant funding from our state government to help us build the Plastic Free July Challenge, which has been a very grassroots campaign, and taking that to a mainstream audience. And we've actually just launched our new logo today, which has become part of that. And if any of you are familiar with our previous logo, it was actually quite full of plastic, disposable plastic, and this is our kind of growing up and moving forward and really reaching a mainstream audience. And I'm just going to give you just a little background of how we kind of got there. And I think the learnings that we've got over the last 6 months as we've been doing a rebrand and a new communication strategy is really critical. And that's what we've spent 6 months surveying, talking to, running workshops with, interviewing our users. And apparently when you create a new, this is a whole new world to me, but apparently when you create a new website and a new platform, you normally have 2 or 3 personas. We, after much argument, narrowed it down to 6. And so how we did the testing and we surveyed our participants, who are national and international now, is we had around 6,000 surveys that we analysed. We ran workshops for local government. We ran workshops with a range of stakeholders, from corporates to businesses to school kids to teachers, community groups who've been participating in the campaign. We did one-on-one interviews. And what we soon realised is that there's a little bit of a spectrum here from people who are beginners to people who we call our collaborators. That we realised that everyone in our networks, everyone we spoke to, everyone we would do our testing of our comms material in, were already kind of like the people in this room and at this conference. They're already concerned about the issue, they're already passionate, and they're already engaged. And we realised that these 2 characters on the left here, these are actually all fictitious people, even though we do have a 1-page bio for each of them. So Marianne and Pete, that's actually our target audience. They're regular, mainstream people. These are the people, when we do surveys of the general public, 80% of people say they're concerned about the impact of plastic waste in landfills and in our environment. But what we're seeing is we're seeing a real disconnect between people's values and attitudes and their consumer behaviours and choices. So these are these people over here, and we realised in this waste education space, everyone we know is actually converted, and we don't actually know Marianne and Pete, who are our target audience. And the people at this end of the spectrum, our amplifiers and our collaborators and the waste educators, it's really easy to preach to the converted and get our message out there to people who are already engaged. And they're the kind of people who, you take it to the extreme, and they can fit their year's worth of waste, landfill waste, for a year in a mason jar. But what we're about is we want to connect with Marianne and Pete and get 90% of the population to start reducing their waste by 5 or 10%, because I think that's where you get real impact, and that level of behaviour change is where you start to have impact and voice in changing the system. So, as I said, behavioural insight and behavioural economics are a real key part of how our campaign has developed, and I think it's really important to, as I said, people are already concerned about this issue, and so what we do is we allow people to live their values by connecting them to the world that they want to live in. And this now what is now a worldwide trend of people wanting to go plastic free. And if anyone's familiar with the work of Ipsos, a global research company, they release some really interesting results on Earth Day, and basically reducing waste is one of the top 3 environmental concerns of people worldwide, and that's some really interesting results there. So it's about connecting, it's reducing that attitude, behaviour disconnect. It's about sharing ideas and sharing solutions. So we don't want to overwhelm people with the problem. People already know about the problem. No one feels good when they see that image of the turtle with the straw up its nose, or those mountains of waste. And again, this is an alignment. And I think it's really important here that we need to understand as educators that we need to lead with the how, and we don't lead with the why. So people want to know, they want to act, they want to make a change, and we need to make it easy for them. So part of our new strategy is sharing lots of stories and case studies from the individual level of changing behaviour to showing what a council might have done through Plastic Free July to reduce their waste, what a corporate's done to reduce their plastic waste, because we all create it and it's important that we're all part of the solution. And we don't expect awareness alone to produce change, and we also don't expect necessarily emotional impact to produce change. So when we test our messaging and our marketing, we're not going to the traditional focus groups who are going to say, I really love that ad and I don't like this one, because what we feel moved by isn't necessarily the same thing and the same message as what's actually going to change our behaviour. And I think that's really important to understand that difference. Another insight that we've had from this behaviour change work is we never show the problem as the overwhelming norm. So we're not showing people volumes of waste, we're showing the norm as being people taking positive steps to reduce their waste, and then measuring and sharing those changes are important. So underlying all that is why we came up with the Choose to Refuse message. It's not the Say No message, which is a message that will appeal to activists. It's empowering people, and there's also an architecture of choice behind that as well. One of the other things that we're working on at the moment is local government partnerships, and I think local governments have been a real champion of the Plastic Free July Challenge, and it's a way to engage local communities, whether they're residents or schools or business, in the plastic waste avoidance message. So what this Plastic Free July as a challenge will always be free for individuals and councils and businesses to participate, but what these new partnerships will actually offer local governments is much more nuanced and detailed toolkits and resources to roll out the Plastic Free July Challenge in their area, provide support, and most importantly and critically is measure that impact. And our measured impact is around behaviour change and waste avoidance. And one of the critical things about the research that we're doing at the moment is that we're not just measuring the impact from our participants of Plastic Free July, but we have a research program across the wider community. So we've actually got not only before and after, but we've got a control as well as the participating groups as well. So getting on to what some of those impacts are, the research company Ipsos actually did a global survey of the impact of the awareness of Plastic Free July and participation of Plastic Free July in 2008, at the end of 2018. And there's some very exciting results there, but you have to wait till World Environment Day till we release those. But the estimate last year that 2 million Australians participated in Plastic Free July and took steps to reduce their waste, and that was an increase of about 20% of people from the previous year. And that's also from the foundation with zero advertising budget. And there's been a lot of conversation today about the importance of partnerships and the importance of collaboration. And again, I can't stress enough that this campaign, it's gone from being that 40 people to the 2 million Australians because of the great work of so many people. And I've had a few conversations today already with people from councils and organisations that have been participating and spread it. So some of our headline results so far are around people reducing their household waste by an average of 7.6% per year, as well as cutting their domestic recyclables by 5.6% per year. And then we also we do before and after surveys on attitudes and behaviours around different consumer choices and purchases. And so we've got measurement of that as well. And when we do these surveys, we do it before people take the challenge, and then we also do it a month after the track, down the track, because although we're called Plastic Free July, we're not about people just doing something for 1 month and going back to business as usual, and 89% of our participants report changing long-term habits through participating in the campaign. So how we can support you in your organisation is to deliver a campaign which is working at the top of that waste hierarchy on waste avoidance. And one of the interesting things that we're really discovering with local government is they'll use Plastic Free July during July to focus on the reduced message, but then maybe in August, September, they'll keep using the great support and leverage off that to start maybe tackling other plastic waste issues such as contamination in their recycling streams. The other advantage is the access to our behavioural insights and our data, because what we're about is real change in the long term on this waste issue. So I'm just going to leave it there. I encourage all of you to participate in the challenge this year. As the kids said, I think this morning, we can all do a bit better. And whether that's in our own lives, in our workplaces, within our community, we're all making this waste, and I think together we can be bigger than any one of our own individual actions. So I encourage you, if you haven't already done so, to join us. Come and talk to me more if you'd like to find out a bit more about those partnerships and what that might look like. So thank you.